Well, hello everyone and welcome to our webinar. I'm Jerry Durant, your host today for your DNA Business Management Solutions webcast. Before we begin, a little bit of housekeeping. We've muted all callers. Since we're recording this session, we'll email out a copy on Friday. Also, please share any questions that come up in the chat window so that we can respond to those during the Q&A session later on. And now, I'm very happy to introduce our guest speaker and presenter, Tyler Bremner of Credit Hound. Tyler's our key contact. She's been with Credit Hound for several years now and is calling in from the United Kingdom. Welcome, Tyler. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Jerry. Sorry for almost prematurely cutting you off there. Thank you. Thank you all so much for joining the webinar today. As Jerry said, my name's Tyler Bremner. I'm a global partner manager here at Draycir. And today I'm really excited to show you how we can help you get paid faster and automate your collections processes with Credit Hound for Sage 300. So I will just start the session off by going through some slides with you, and then we can jump into a live product demonstration. And as Jerry said, we can open up at the end for any questions as well. So just feel free to pop those in the chat box as we go through. And yeah, we'll come back to as many as we can towards the end. Typically, these sorts of presentations last, up to about 45 minutes, so we should have plenty of time at the end. I know we're booked in for an hour, so that gives us plenty of extra time if there are a number of questions. So just a short agenda for the session. So I'll start by explaining a little bit about who we are at Draycir. Obviously, you know DNA very well. But we'll give you a bit of background about ourselves. I'll go through some common accounts receivables related business challenges that you might be facing currently, how we can help you with those, followed by, as I said, a demonstration. And as I said, we'll come back to any questions at the end. So as Jerry already said, and as you might be able to tell by the accent, we're a UK-based business. We're located in a city called Leicestershire. And at Draycir, we have been living, eating and breathing collections for over 20 years. We have a really in-depth understanding of the kind of challenges businesses face on a day-to-day basis. So we've now got over 11,000 organisations using our software globally, helping them all to reduce their bad debt and get paid faster and improve their cash flow. So what are some of the overarching challenges that businesses like yourselves might face? Well, first of all, simply getting paid late. You know, with 1 in 10 invoices being paid late and 93% of businesses experiencing late payments, I'm sure that's a challenge that all of us on this call have experienced at one point or another. And we then, as organisations, have to spend time chasing these payments, whether we've got someone doing collections alongside another role, whether we have a dedicated person or a dedicated team of people. You know, this all takes significant time, effort and money just to ensure that we're getting paid on time. And because of what's involved in the collections process, having to, print off aged debt reports, perhaps keep a spreadsheet up to date, make phone calls, send emails, making notes, handling disputes, all of that means businesses are spending on average 14 hours a week, which is over 2 hours a day, simply chasing customers and the admin associated to that. And lastly, on average, companies write off about 1.5% of their receivables as bad debt. For a $50 million a year company, that's 750,000 simply lost each year because they've just not been able to keep on top of their receivables, which I'm sure we all agree it's simply money wasted, but this can be avoided. So what are some of the sort of day-to-day challenges that our customers face before using Credit Hound? So efficiency is a really big one. So due to the volume of invoices or lack of staff, so many customers we speak to have to prioritize chasing, whether that be the largest debt or the most overdue debt first, which you could argue makes sense. But if we are putting all of our focus into the largest debt, what's actually happening with those smaller invoices? You know, are they ever getting chased? Or if we are chasing our most overdue and putting all of our focus into that, then we're not being proactive with our newer invoices. And as a result of this and poor cash flow, some businesses have to resort to increasing their overdraft, borrowing money from the bank, or as we alluded to on the last slide, writing off very old debt, all of which are very costly solutions to the issue. And in some cases, customers that we speak to can no longer offer credit to their customers, which is then going to have a huge impact on your business. And due to the challenges that they face in AR, some businesses also have to employ more staff or outsource their collections to a third party. And that's exactly why we're running this session today, to show you how all of the above really can be avoided. Okay. So why Credit Hound? Well, so often businesses don't actually chase an unpaid invoice until it's past its due date. And if that client then has an issue or needs a copy of the invoice, or they're disputing it, we'll then lose another, let's say 5 days sorting that out. And then by the time we get the payment, that invoice is then very overdue. But if we were to be proactive instead of reactive and remind those customers, let's say a week in advance, that buys us that week to deal with any potential issues and still get paid on time. So that allows us then to better manage our cash forecasting. So it's all about automating the administrative tasks associated with collections. It's all about proactively chasing your clients before the invoice is due, and all about making more available cash for your business. And Credit Hound provides a really quick return on investment. Most of our customers see a difference straight away. And then with the consistent customer communications, you'll be able to maintain your excellent relationships with your customers whilst not having to deal with things like exceeded payment terms and reactive chasing and admin and bad debt and all of that bad stuff. And just to expand on that point a little more and give you a bit of a visual as to the amount of steps that Credit Hound can take out and automate for you. So if we just firstly look at the little diagram on the left hand side. So typically before using Credit Hound, collection staff are spending about 80% of their time on admin and only 20% of their time actually chasing customers. And this is largely down to doing everything manually. So as I said, they're often printing age data reports, putting everything into a spreadsheet, which by the time you've done that, everything is instantly out of date. That kind of data isn't in real time once it's been exported out of your ERP. They're spending time transferring notes from one system to another, having to manually check the payments, looking in their diaries, finding out who to call, who they need to follow up with, writing emails, making those phone calls, having to liaise with people internally as well, about disputes and things like that, and logging and actually resolving those disputes, tracking chase history, even just talking about it, it all sounds very time consuming and admin heavy, not to mention actually having to do those tasks on a day-to-day basis. So the whole premise behind Credit Hound is taking out all of that admin time. There is, of course, always going to be a manual element to it because we have humans in jobs for the time being. It may all turn to robots, who knows? But there is always going to be that element of human interaction. But it's all about flipping that process on its head and turning that role from, spending 80% time of your time doing admin to spending 80% of your time actually speaking to people and chasing these payments and, you know, maintaining those relationships. And that's ultimately how we're going to improve your cash flow. So just to give you a bit more information about Credit Hound, I will go through these points with you just to kind of point all these different elements out, but you're going to see this in the demo anyway. So first of all, Credit Hound links seamlessly to Sage 300, so you don't have to duplicate or rekey any information. The data is always synchronized from Sage into Credit Hound, so all the data that you're going to see in there is as up to date as Sage is, so it's as real time as you're going to get. We have advanced multi-level chase cycles. So this pulls through straight from Sage based on any analysis codes or categories that you already have set up. And it allows you to email chasing letters with the corresponding invoices attached as well. So you might have some customers who you need to chase differently, or either more or less regularly than others. So for example, if you have good and bad payers, or perhaps key accounts who you don't want to be included, Credit Hound will recognise that and chase it accordingly. You've got a really nice built-in to-do list, which makes it extremely easy for staff to come in, see their workload for the day. We can see all of the steps taken to chase an invoice. We also have different levels of users as well. So, for example, management users will be able to reassign tasks in the to-do list to other Credit Hound users. For example, if someone's on holiday or off sick as well. So it's a really great tool if you have got multiple people, as well as if you have just got the one. The chase screen in Credit Hound as well gives you access to real-time account information and audit history. And you can automate follow-up emails and reminders, with those reminders then automatically being removed as soon as a customer pays or a dispute's resolved. So we're never going to be chasing a paid invoice and annoying those customers. The dispute tracking as well, so you can introduce a really clear, defined process when logging disputes to ensure that, you know, they're communicated and followed up and ultimately resolved on time, with all the relevant parties involved in those communications as well. So, you know, often the collections, the person doing that collection won't necessarily deal with the dispute. You know, it might get assigned to somebody else internally. So again, Credit Hound understands all this and will set up logic so it automatically communicates this to relevant parties. Okay, next, skipping ahead, we've got reporting. So Credit Hound offers really comprehensive reporting, so you can really analyse your efforts and highlight any data issues. And it also allows you to streamline your business processes. And this is one of my favourite things to show in Credit Hound, because I think it's really powerful. I will be pointing this out to you when we're in the demo, but yeah, the reporting is great. So we can create customized letters with wording and branding of your choice to send out to your clients, really helping to maintain that kind of consistency and professionalism in all of your correspondence to your clients. And we also utilize another one of our products, Spindle Document Distribution. So we give you a free of charge license for it to use with Credit Hound. But this allows you to send all your documents via email, print, fax, and you can archive them seamlessly as well. So I will provide you a bit more information on Spindle, because there are other areas you can use that outside of Credit Hound as well. But of course, today the focus is on Credit Hound. We've got a return on investment calculator on our website. So if you look at the screen now, you'll see a link. You feel free to use that link and input some information about your business, and then you'll be able to understand a little bit more in depth how much money you can save within 3 months of using Credit Hound. So you can see on this example here, based on a business with a $5 million annual turnover and about $800,000 of outstanding debt, they can save $70,000 per year. And yeah, either now or after the webinar, I definitely urge you to pop onto that link and understand how much you can save for yourselves. That saving will actually increase when I come on to the pay them element as well. But for now, I'll just leave that with you, and I will bring up the pay them on a separate slide. So before we move to pay them, let's look at spindle document distribution. So as I said, you don't need to worry too much about this because spindle just really works in the background. But I do think it's useful for you to know and understand what it does, because as I say, we do give you a free license to use with Credit Hound. However, there might be other areas, other documents that you might want to look at using it with as well. So spindle document distribution powers the actual sending of collections related documents. So chase letters, dispute notifications. It allows you to attach the invoices onto this email as well. So spindle can actually send out any report from Sage. So invoices, remittance advices, purchase orders, statements, and they can all be, you know, it's flexible on how those documents are delivered. You might have a group of customers who only want to receive physical copies, in which case we can set spindle up to say, when we are printing these documents for these particular customers, make sure they are physical copies and they're not emails. We can add your branding and any promotional messaging both onto the document itself and within the email content. So again, all documentation sent out is professional and consistent. We can also add attachments onto emails as well. So for example, if you're sending out a statement, you'll be able to attach all the relevant invoices. Or some customers actually add things like additional, delivery information or opening times or marketing brochures, that kind of thing. We can also dictate the logic to send out emails in the correct language for your different customers and suppliers. So we can configure it so that it says, you know, okay, this customer's location is France or a French-speaking region in Canada. So we're going to send everything to these customers in French. Likewise, you might have customers across the globe, you know, different European countries or in Asia, that sort of thing. Again, we can set logic up to say, when we're sending documents to these customers, use this language. You might even want to brand differently as well, or have different promotional messaging for different kinds of customers. Again, we can dictate logic to say that as well. And then finally, we can archive all of those documents for you automatically into Windows folder structures, into SharePoint, CRM, whatever it might be, whatever works for you. Okay. So without getting too heavy into it, how does Spindle work? Spindle's just installed as a printer. So anything that we're sending from either Credit Hound or Sage, it's just a basic print function. So it's very, very straightforward. But when we print something to Spindle, that then, because we modify your existing reports, again, this is all the kind of back-end stuff you don't need to worry too much about. But because of the logic and the coding that we put on there, it then knows how to distribute that document as well. So it really can, you know, some customers, they're saving hours per day on their document delivery because all it now takes is just a click of a button. Okay. So again, likewise with Credit Hound, we do also have a return on investment calculator, which again, you're free to use the link that's on the screen right now. And that gives you a little bit of an idea of your annual savings with Spindle as well. But as I say, you don't actually need to purchase a spindle license for any Credit Hound related documents, and that's the beauty of it. Anything that you would like outside of that, of course, you'd need to purchase a full license. So then the final piece of the puzzle. So this is our latest and greatest feature called Pay Them. So this is all about enabling your customers to pay you even more efficiently. Okay. So what is Pay Them? So essentially you can offer your customers a range of instant payment methods, such as credit cards and ACH, and it will enable you to track, monitor and receive payments, as well as understand when payments have been successful and when payments have failed. So it will work with any document being printed to spindle, whether that be on invoices, statements, collection letters, things like that. And it will also give you additional flexibility as well to add things like early settlement discounts, late payment fees, credit card fees you can even pass on, that sort of thing as well. So I will show you this a little bit more in the demo. So let's crack on into that. Okay, so this here is your Credit Hound dashboard. Now, the first thing that you'll probably notice is Credit Hound actually sits outside of Sage 300. So all the data synchronizes and all of that information is pulled through, but it is a separate application. And the way I would describe it is it's like using a CRM system for collections. You know, you will spend your entire time in here from a collections perspective, you know, making notes and reviewing account history, that sort of thing. So you can see first off on the dashboard, just to point out, this will use whatever your base currency is in Sage. So of course, if you use Canadian dollars, it will show us that, or US dollars, whatever it might be. So at first glance, you have an insight into how much debt you have as a business, how much cash we've got promised in, and I'll show you how these figures are calculated, how much mini age debt we've got, so we can see the different kind of aging buckets there. We've got a quick view of our to-do list. There's another way to get into this, which I'll show you in a moment. A quick view of all of our disputes, who has paid us, and who has our money in different visuals. All of this is customizable like any dashboard in any software, really. You know, the widgets all move around and the user can really configure it to how they want to see things. Now, the first and most important thing I think about Credit Hound when getting set up, and the thing that really is going to save the bulk of your time, is the rules. So these are the rules and actions that we'll be setting up. I'm just going to make this a bit bigger, to chase your customers. So this is a pretty basic one that I've got set up here, but it just gives you a good idea of the kind of process you can go through to chase an invoice. So the first one, which is actually at the bottom, is the preemptive reminder. So like I mentioned earlier, a lot of customers that we speak to don't get a chance to preemptively remind their customers they've got an invoice becoming due, because they simply don't have the time. But because this is automatically going to do that for you, it offers you another step in speaking to your customer and communicating with your customer to ensure you get paid on time. So the way that this one's being set up is essentially 5 days before that invoice is due, we're going to send a really friendly email to that customer just to let them know that, no, don't worry, your invoice isn't due yet, but it is going to be due in 5 days. So let's prepare to make a payment, or let us know if there's any problems. And what we will also do in every communication is attach the invoice onto it as well. So we're immediately eradicating the very common pushback from a customer of, oh, I've not received the invoice. We're going to attach it onto every single email. Now, if that payment doesn't get made on time, what we're then going to do is send out their first chasing letter. So we have selected here to have moderate wording. You are completely in control of, you know, the actual wording in the emails. We can help you and offer some guidance there, but yeah, ultimately it's down to yourselves. You can make it as friendly or as strongly worded as you like. But we just set up some logic to say here that if the invoice is over 15 days overdue and less than 22 days overdue, the reason we do that range is to avoid sending emails out on weekends. Then it's going to trigger another email to that set of customers. Now, again, if that isn't paid, we'll move on to chasing letter 2. Which is a bit more strongly worded. You know, at this point, this is over 30 days overdue. We have some customers who might want to threaten legal action at that point. Others still want to keep it quite light-hearted. It really is down to you as a business. It's completely tailored to yourselves. But what I will point out is if the payment is made anywhere between these steps, it won't move on to the next step, because that payment will be allocated and marked as paid and therefore removed from the chasing cycle. So you're never going to be chasing an unpaid invoice, a paid invoice. This is where I spoke about the human element still needing to be there, because yes, we're going to automate these first, you know, number of steps, however many you choose. But there will come a point where, you know, we need to pick up the phone, because if they're ignoring every single email, we need to spend our time speaking to this customer and finding out what's going on. So I'll run this just to show you what that looks like. So this is the telephone chasing list. So with these 3 rules here, the action has been to send an email. So when this you know, when these parameters have been met, we're going to trigger an email. But with the telephone chasing list, we're not going to send any more emails because clearly that's not working. So the action in this rule is to put an item in my to-do list. Okay. So you can have other kinds of rules and actions as well. So for example, if an invoice reaches a certain amount of days overdue, then you might want your action to be put that customer on stop. Or if they've reached their credit limit, put that customer on stop, whatever it might be. So there's a number of different rules and actions you can have. Now, if I open my to-do list, so because I just ran that telephone chasing list, of course, I ran it manually, but in a normal environment, that would be ran automatically. No one would have to click run. But I can see here in my to-do list a list of tasks. I'm also going to open this up in my calendar, just because as a preference for myself, I prefer to see my items in this sort of format. Some people prefer lists. It's exactly the same information, just in 2 different formats. And this can also be integrated with things like Outlook or Gmail, or you know, your email client as well, if you do prefer to see your tasks in that format. So these are my automated tasks that have been assigned to me because that telephone chasing list was ran. Now, if we had multiple users of Credit Hound, when that telephone chasing list is run, those tasks will be allocated to the correct person. So if the accounts are divvied up, you know, in alphabetical order or regionally between each collections advisor, they will only be assigned tasks relevant to them. So if I logged in for the day, my first thing I'm going to do is check all of my automated tasks and start working through them. So it's just making me a lot more organized. You know, I haven't had to assign myself these tasks. They've been done automatically for me. I can see any notes on here and I can just get straight into it and start chasing this customer. So I've just clicked the chase account button and that's taken me into the chase screen. So here I'm presented with all information about this particular account. So my client Festival Homes, I can see they're on stock for a start. So we're definitely going to want to pick up the phone and speak to them. I can see all their transaction history here, any notes, you know, when emails were sent, when follow-ups were sent, when phone calls were made, everything like that's kept here. So what I'm going to do is hit the Start Chase button, and you'll see the timer begins here in the bottom right hand corner, and I'll come on to why that's important in a little while. And I'm going to speak to my customer now to understand why they haven't made a payment. So my contact here is Maureen, so I'm going to pick up the phone to her and speak to her and find out what the issue is. Now, it might be that she said, my mistake, I'm so sorry, I'm going to include this on the next payment run, easy peasy. What we then do is offer some suggested objections. And this is because when you're on the phone, you know, or, you know, perhaps you've got a new member of staff, or, you know, if you have someone doing collections alongside their normal role, they might not know what sort of questions are good to ask to get a bit more detail. So, you know, finding out the actual date of the next payment run so that we can then forecast it correctly, and checking details are correct, all of that good stuff. We can then select how much they've promised to pay as well. So in this case, I'll just keep it really simple and say they've promised to pay the full amount. And let's say the next payment run is next Friday, for example. Now, what we can do here is, so we've said that it will be promised by the 10th of November at 20 to 5. If that payment hasn't been received by this time, using this little checkbox here, we can automatically put another item in the calendar or the to-do list to say that you need to speak to this person again. So again, we're removing that kind of manual element of having to remember to do things, and, you know, perhaps writing stuff down in your to-do list and forgetting to do it because you just, you know, got a mountain of other work to do. We're taking all that away, and it's just going to go straight into your calendar when you need to call this person. So it keeps it dead simple. There's also other sorts of information on the left hand side about the account as well as different tabs here. So when you are on the phone, you know, it might be you might want to take a look at their disputes. They might ask you about other invoices, that kind of thing. So it's just really useful to have all of that information sitting in front of you as well. So I'll stop that chase. At this point, we can choose to include or exclude them from automated letters. And the reason for that is, and this is where I'll show you the disputes. So if we pretend Maureen didn't just tell us it's going to be on the next payment run, and what she actually said was, well, I never received the item that you were going to send me, I can add a dispute and pop in that goods weren't received. Again, this is all customizable and tailored to your business. These might not necessarily be your most common dispute reasons. Of course, we work with you during the setup to understand what yours are, and we'll make sure it's only relevant information appearing there. So we're going to put goods not received. At this point, I can put some client notes in. So Maureen advised the, let's say, countertop was never received. And then we can add some internal notes as well. So this is what the customer's told us the issue is, but I'm going to assign this over to somebody else within the business because they're going to ultimately be the one to deal with the dispute. So I would say, you know, can we have another countertop sent out, as an example. Okay, now what I can do here is introduce a bit of an SLA. So I'm going to choose a date where we're going to review this. So if I put, so we're on Thursday, I'll put Monday, and a date to resolve it by. So we'll go by within a week's time. Of course, you're going to use your judgment on a case-by-case basis as to how long things might take to solve. And then we're going to assign this over to, we'll go with the sales director, but we'll also copy it into the warehouse manager as well. So these people here that are listed on the right hand side, they don't have to be Credit Hound users. They don't even have to be Sage users. These can be anyone within your organization. And what that means is they will get a email triggered to them from Credit Hound to say that a dispute has been raised. So the customer will receive a copy, and this is where we'll select that. So the client will get a copy of the dispute notification, but also the warehouse manager and the sales director internally will also receive a copy of that dispute report. So everyone is aware, everyone has been communicated with. Okay, so give that a second to close down, and then we'll get a preview as well of what the dispute notifications will look like. So this one here is the customer facing dispute notification. So I could choose to print that if I want to send it out. And as I mentioned earlier, Spindle is just a printer. So we would just print from Credit Hound to Spindle. I'm not going to do it right now. And then I can send the internal one as well. So we can see for Angela Robson, and then there would be another copy for the warehouse manager. Okay, and then that's that task completed. So that's the phone call made, a dispute raised and communicated. Now, because we just raised a dispute, what I will show you on the reporting side, this is where it all sort of starts to tie together. So we have a whole bunch of inbuilt out of the box reports within Credit Hound. I'm just going to select the dispute analysis one for now to take you through, just because we just raised a dispute, and I think this is a really great report to have access to. So if any of you on the call today have any experience in trying to gather reports from Sage, it can be quite time consuming. It can be quite difficult to get the sort of level of reports you require straight out of Sage, especially when it's to do with things like collections. So here we've got the dispute analysis report. So this is giving us a bit more of a deep dive into why we're getting disputes. So here we can see our biggest problem, and I don't know if you can see that, I'll zoom in because I know it's quite small. Our biggest issue here is that 63% of our disputes are because goods are faulty, and that's equating to about £60,000. Our second biggest is goods not received, which is the issue I just raised in that example dispute there, and that's equating to a monetary value of about 23k. So we know goods faulty is a really big issue that we're having, and that's preventing us getting paid on time. Now, if I scroll down a little bit, so goods faulty is clearly our biggest issue, but if I'm looking at how long it takes us to resolve this issue, well, actually, it's only taking us 4 days. Whereas goods not received, which is our second biggest monetary value dispute, is actually taking us 24 days. So that's our cash being withheld for nearly an extra month because goods aren't received. And then that indicates to us, a bigger, a wider problem as to why we're not getting paid on time, and something that we can fix as well. So, goods not received, perhaps we need to look at how we're shipping these items, that kind of thing. So information that would have otherwise been really difficult to get hold of, we've suddenly got it at a glance built into Credit Hound straight away. Now, earlier as well, I did point out that there was a timer in the bottom right-hand corner of the chase screen. So I'm going to show you this user activity report, which is where that comes in really useful as well. So if I want to understand, how many accounts have I chased this week? How long have I spent chasing them? How long have I spent reviewing things? How much money have I got promised in? How much money have I got paid? How many disputes am I dealing with at the moment? All of that information is within here. And where the timer comes in really handy is, if I've spent twice the amount of time chasing one of our customers than all of the others, then that indicates an issue with that customer. And perhaps, we need to look at changing the process with them, changing their payment terms, or taking deposits, or whatever it might be, not offering them credit, for example. And again, it just gives us a little bit more of an insight into what our wider issues might be outside of actual collections. If I'm a finance director, I might just only want to see a really high level overview of how much promised cash have we got due in. That's all I want to know. How much cash have we got promised this week, next week, or further on into the future? So I can just run this report really quickly and easily. And if I want to dive deeper into the notes, I can do. And I can also see any accounts that we've got on stop as well. If I want to email that to someone, I can just do this straight from Credit Hound as well. So I can just email that report as a PDF to someone internally. Okay. And then you can do really kind of generic reporting as well. So if I just want to see a list of all my accounts, I probably made a mistake doing that because that might take a little bit of time to run that report, but there we go. You can see this is a much longer and more detailed report. Okay. What I will show you as well, just quickly, just checking time, yeah, we're okay for time for now, is I mentioned the pay them element earlier on. So if I open this invoice, and this is an example of what a reminder email could look like, by the way, as well. So this is sitting in my drafts folder, so we can adjust things like the subject line. We've attached documents automatically. We've got some promotional messaging on the left-hand side, letting them know there's going to be some new pricing, all that kind of stuff. Now, taking a look at the invoice that I just opened. Oh, there we go. What we'll see, so we've got our branding on the invoice itself, so we keep it maintaining that kind of professionalism from the email body into the document, and we have the Pay Now button. So what that enables your customer to do is click on that button. We work with a payment processor in North America called Pay Assist or TransSafe. And that payment can be made by a credit card or ACH, whatever it is you guys accept, and also get allocated back into Sage 300 as well. So it will do the reconciliation piece for you. So it's really kind of end-to-end solution in terms of your payments. So it will collect the cash and it will process and feed it back into the ERP. Okay. So just to flick back into my slides, I did just want to give you a little bit of kind of customer feedback from other users of Credit Hound as well, just to give you an idea of how they're using it. So with Instant, we helped them change their whole process and supported them with growing their company. So for them, it was really all about growth. With Swan Staff Recruitment, they love how user-friendly Credit Hound is and being able to have all that sort of real-time information at their fingertips. And with AM to PM, they noted that we reduced their workload and saved them 20 hours a week and prevented them needing to hire an extra person. And I guess the reason for sharing that with you is, you know, I appreciate all businesses have different reasons for wanting to automate their accounts receivables, whether that be because they want to grow or to improve their process and efficiency, or, you know, just to save time and prevent needing to hire extra staff. Whatever the reason might be, you know, we've helped all of our customers achieve all of those different objectives. Okay, so now we have, I think, just short of just over 10 minutes for some questions. I'm just going to check the chat box and see if we've had any come through. Okay, so first question here, how long does Credit Hound or Spindle take to install? So in its entirety, it will take around 5 days, subject to scope. So of course, if you've got about 20 different companies and 150 different users, it might take a little bit more time than that. But generally speaking, a typical install is around the 5-day mark. Now, if you were to use Spindle on a standalone basis, so just simply to send documents from Sage, then you would be looking more at kind of the 2-day mark for that. So a lot of the time for implementation is spent on the actual configuration of your rules and actions and stationery, that kind of thing. So what is the cost of the pay them feature? Great news, actually, it's free. So the platform itself is free of charge for now. As I say, it's our latest and greatest feature, so we are allowing early adopters to use it for free for the lifetime. However, of course, in the future, if they wanted to upgrade to newer versions of Pay Them, then there would be a platform fee. Sorry, those words are far too close together and mean two very different things. But yeah, so all that you would be charged is just normal credit card fees, as you already will be if you're taking payments via credit card. The platform itself is free of charge, so I would certainly urge you to take advantage of that. How is Credit Hound licensed? So it's per user, and I did mention earlier we do have different levels of users as well. So you can have full system users who would have access to all areas of Credit Hound. Then you might have management users who, you know, they would have access to reassign tasks, that kind of thing. And then you can have a BI user as well, which would just be, you know, kind of read-only access, perhaps a finance director who only needs to run reports every now and then, that kind of thing. Are we able to send other documents using Spindle? Yeah, absolutely. So you can upgrade your free of charge Spindle license into a full Spindle license. There is, of course, a cost associated to doing that, but that will give you the complete freedom and flexibility to use Spindle with any kind of document and not just your collections related documents. To be really clear, the documents that are included with your free of charge license are any of your chasing letters can be set up, and your invoices as well. So if you wanted to do things outside of that, like statements and purchase orders, then you would need a full Spindle license. Okay. And I think that's it for questions. So yeah, I would just like to thank you all for making the time today. I hope you found it really useful. Please feel free to reach out to me. My email address is on the screen now if you have any questions, or of course reach out to the team at DNA and we can arrange a follow-up call if you would like to discuss further. But with that, I will hand back to Jerry.
Thank you, Tyler. That was a great and very in-depth presentation. I've learned more things too, which is great. That's always good. Thank you everyone for attending today. And as Tyler mentioned, should you have questions, please feel free to reach out to her, or you can reach out to me. My email address is jerry with a G at da.ca. It's posted on the splash screen, but we've got Tyler's up right here, so I won't change over. But if any questions, any information that you'd like to see, I'll be happy to send it, and so will Tyler. Thank you all for joining us today. I guess we will conclude. Oh, there it is there. Thanks, Tyler. And we'll conclude the meeting. Give you back some of your day. Oh, while I think of it, we will be sending out a recording tomorrow, so you'll have a record of this this session, and you'll be able to preview it again or share it with coworkers. So that's the value in that one there. So everyone have a wonderful day, and thanks so much for joining us. Bye-bye now.